Good evening. Welcome to Vibin with Ashley Live. I'm your host, Ashley Live. This is episode 219 of my show. I'm so very excited to bring back my guest this evening, singer, songwriter, producer, and beatboxer, the incredible Blake Lewis is coming back on the show. Blake's musical journey began in Seattle, mastering beatboxing and songwriting. Rising to fame on season 6 of American Idol, he introduced beatboxing to a global audience. His debut album, Audio Daydream, soared to the top 10 on the Billboard charts. Blake's versatility shines as a songwriter, performer, and producer, collaborating with artists like Postmodern Jukebox and mentoring young artists. His current project, The Private Language, fuses funk, dance, and electronic music, reflecting his eclectic musical style. Blake is in the house, and let's get this party started.
Let's get this party started.
Blake, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming back on the show, Blake. How's everything?
Everything's great. Can't complain.
Great. Awesome. So what have you been up to recently? Talk to us.
Oh my gosh. I live in Las Vegas now, and I've been working on my house and in my studio and doing a lot of DIY, fixing up and painting and, building and all the things, and working on music constantly. Yeah.
Cool. Well, what we can see from your studio, it looks beautiful. Talk to me about your studio. Are there certain things in your studio that you need to get in the creative mood? Talk to me about that process of DIY and studio life.
I mean, a lot of things, the beatbox is the foundation. So usually I'm in here just trying to come up with good beats and then go to melody. You have to have a good, strong groove and foundation for a song. So I'm usually doing that. And then I'll go to one of my guitars or bass or keyboard, piano, and kind of work out the melodies that I got going on, the countless melodies and voices that are in my head.
Yes. So about the design aspect, because the little design aspects that we do see, it's pretty rad. Can you talk to us about some of the art and the inspiration behind the design of your studio?
It's just, I wanted it to make it kind of like a dark place. This whole place, you kind of can tell it's purple. It's like a dark purple with acoustic treatment and big art. You can't see it behind here, but a lot of art that I have is from friends throughout the world. And recently I just, with the help of my friend Guy, painted a kind of desert mural in my bathroom and like this 80s Nagel vibe in my den and my jam room where all my gear and drums are. It's very eclectic and vibrant, I would say,
Yeah. And you draw inspiration from seeing this art all over your place, right?
For sure. I am a wannabe artist when it comes to painting and drawing. I did when I was a kid and gave it up for music. So I'm inspired by it all the time, and definitely was in love with photography for a very long time, and that was a very small endeavor before all my gear got stolen. I just gave it up. But I love photography. I love people that can paint and draw, and pretty much that's all I follow. Like on social media is just artists. So to draw inspiration from that.
Definitely. Are there any artists that you're a huge fan of?
Huge fan of Crayola. 1000, who did my last album cover. My friend Guy is doing murals around the world. Vivian Pantoja, who is in Colombia, who has done a lot of I don't even know what, more like mosaic style mixed with collage art. I love that. There's so many. There's countless.
Yeah. And I think when you see art, it can inspire all these different kinds of emotion, whether it's art on a wall, music, a song that you hear. I mean, I think art and inspiration can come from everywhere.
Everywhere. It's all around us. I mean, I walk outside and get inspired, just walking my dog every day. you
Mhm.
know,
Definitely.
something, hear people's conversation, hear a movie line from some writer that just one line that really reaches you emotionally, that can trigger a memory that takes you down a path you wouldn't have had the minute before, the day before, the year before. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Love that. So I want to talk about some of the early formative years of your life. How did growing up in Seattle shape your artistic journey?
I would say growing up with my mom and dad shaped it at an early age. My mom's a singer and rocker at heart, and can play one hell of a guitar, finger picking, bluegrass, blues, rock. So I would say that was, you know, a lot of music going on in the house. I grew up the first 10 years of my life on a street with no kids and an only child. So I was desperate for attention, desperate for some kind of outlet. I started singing young, but mainly it was like, playing with my toys, my Transformers, my Ninja Turtles, and you know, kind of keeping me busy making sounds, not knowing I was a beatboxer then. It was very subconscious. You're just a kid, you're making noise. There was no internet. I grew up in a time where you had to create your own fun, go outside. I built lots of forts, tree houses. When we finally moved, there was this forest next to our house, and you know, all the kids would like go in there and like play, not Cowboys and Indians, but like whatever the movie was on at the time, Bad Guys versus Us. And we would make these crazy, like we were the Lost Boys, in Neverland and Peter Pan. We had like a 2-story tree house to another tree house with a zip line to another tree house. Like we just kept building and building, and that was fun, getting
Hold
outside.
up. We need to talk about this zip line. Was it because when I think of a zip line, crafted, right? Like that could be dangerous.
Oh, it was for sure dangerous. We'd just take a hammer and go down. So you'd have to hold on. That all
Oh,
ended when my friend's sister did that and let go at the end, and the hammer came down on her head. So
no.
there was no more zip lining after that. And that's why girls are not allowed in the treehouse. You know,
Boys
it's so
only.
funny. It's so funny. You see all those movies like no girls allowed and stuff, and like whatever. We don't care. I had girlfriends, guy friends, but that one day, that was it. It was like, all right, your sister can't come anymore, man.
Well, I think like when I think of a zip line, I think of like something professional in a different country, right? Where you're just like all hooked in. But I'm like, a zip line as a child sounds terrifying, dangerous, but also I would do it.
It was so much fun. I mean, you have no fear as a kid, especially back then. Like you had to create your own fun, so
Yeah.
it was just a lot of randomness and a lot of fun. And then I had another friend, my friend Mike Hadrius, who's now Perfume Genius, and a fantastic artist, and he has always been since the day I know him. He would be drawing pictures, and we had the same piano teacher, and make up songs and do crazy Thriller home videos on VHS and Betamax and all that stuff. So very creative. As soon as we moved when I was 10, as like all the little kind of creating aspects of my life came to fruition. As soon as I got a piano,
Mhm.
I got an amp and a mic for Christmas. One when I was asking for drums forever and ever. Damn you, parents. They put drumsticks in my stocking, and I ran downstairs, and there was no drum set. I was very upset.
That's sad and that's mean.
Sacrilegious, but there was an amp and electric guitar. I didn't really care so much about the guitar, but the amp and the mic, I was just started like, making sounds and whatnot. And then I saw a beatboxer when I was in junior year of my high school, and then basically my life changed. I became a beatboxer that moment I saw him doing it live.
Yeah.
It was the same week of like Roselle in it was not MTV Raps, but it was like Hip Hop Week or Hip Hop Month on MTV, and he was doing a lot of commercials and promo, and I was just like, so I got heavily into the Roots and Tribe Called Quest, and the back catalog, got into Dougie Fresh and Buff Love of the Fat Boys and all that. So, and Bismarcky, you know, so that kind of changed everything. So first it was mom, and then like going to concerts with her, and like the Folk Life Festival in Seattle and Bumper Shoot. And then it was like, oh, I like these artists. I want to go see these artists, you know? So I don't remember. I remember that there was an all ages place called the Redmond Firehouse, and it was this old firehouse. And I think Nirvana played there. I wasn't there for that gig, but it was like Sunny Day Real Estate and a band called Super Deluxe. And I was just like, oh my God, you know, all these rock bands in Seattle fame. It was fun to grow up in that town.
Yeah. Yeah. I think because so much amazing music came from Seattle, it's got to be wild to have the birthplace of all these incredible bands and artists that call Seattle their home.
Yeah, it's there's a long line of just super talent. I mean, we had Sir Mix-a-Lot for rap, Sir Mix-a-Lot, Anthony Ray. You know, and I was obsessed with that album, Swamp Meat Louie, Baby Got Back, My Testarossa, all these, like, you know, my parents hated, of course, like, why turn off that rap music, you know? And I was just like, I was in love the moment I heard it, you know, as so did many as soon as they hear it, you know.
Definitely. Yeah. I think the first time you hear rap music, you're like, your parents yell at you, right? But you're like, this is so amazing what they do, like, rapping. And then I think even beatboxing, because beatboxing is such a gift to have. And then you practice. And like you said, you were making these noises and kind of making up your fun all through your childhood. So it only kind of made sense to transition into something where you could kind of like use all those noises, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the big love came with electronic music. Back then there was MTV's Amp, which was on at like midnight, Aeon Flux, like Image Comics had the Max, all this like really bizarre creative art. You know, the late night, weird, almost acid trippy tweaker, trip hop, drum and bass, industrial music. I mean, you know, Nine Inch Nails and the whole goth scene, and it was massive in Seattle. And I was just like this squeaky clean kid from the burbs who loved it all, you know. And I really took to electronic music. Like I think around 95, 96, I fell in love with trance and drum and bass and jungle. And by the time I got out of high school, I was hosting raves, like 4,000 people a weekend, you know, just having a blast, DJing. I was a terrible DJ. I still DJ now. I'm much better. But back then I was so self-indulgent. You know, I was playing like break beats with, you know, symphonies on them and like, just like, you know, crazy avant-garde electronic music, which I still love to this day.
Yeah. So then, well, 17 years ago, you were on a show called American Idol.
I heard of it.
I know, right? I think we all have. I think honestly, saying 17 years sounds like such a lifetime ago, but it probably feels like yesterday for you, right?
No, it feels like 17 years ago.
So,
yeah, no, they just started their 23rd season, which is crazy.
I don't know. They just started their new season, but it's wild. Talk to me about your experience on the show, looking back on it, and how it's made you evolve as a musician.
I mean, it's such a can of worms when I get asked that question, because it was a year of my life, and like every day was like a new adventure. Right. I would say it was amazing at one point, and then I would say at another point it was bittersweet. And then you know, being a part of the machine of the entertainment industry, it has its ups and downs, especially with fame. And you know, being on a show where you're judged, it becomes very political, and especially being on the background of that show. I wish they would show more of like what actually happens on that show. But America just gets like the glossy presentation, you know. Oh, excuse me. Pardon me. But it was amazing. I mean, looking back, it's something I would tell my, you know, grandchildren, like, back in my day, there was no social media, and we had a show called American Idol. Well, you sang for your supper. But yeah, it was amazing. I have lifelong besties from that experience. I got to meet my heroes. I got to perform with my heroes.
Mhm.
It was life changing. I mean, there's my life before, and then there's my life after, and it did some crazy stuff to my head, in a good way and in a terrible way. Being on a show where you're just like instantly famous is never good for anybody. And I was young and foolish at times, and made smart decisions and bad decisions, and all the good that comes and bad from being in the public eye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, yeah. And it's like you're on a show like that, right? You go from just your regular life to being on this show where people recognize you and like you're on TV all the time. And then you come back to your regular life. And like you said, you have these ups and these downs, and you're just trying to navigate your life, but you're still trying to like keep your whole musical journey alive.
Exactly. I mean, which has never stopped. I've been a professional singer and musician since 99, you
Mhm.
know. I had a song on the radio that I wrote the hook for that went to #1 in Seattle in 1999 called Take Control with Twista was on it. And then, I was doing my kind of one-man show. I had an a cappella group where we were playing a show every day. And then I would do raves at night. So I've been going nonstop since high school. And then, fame happens, and then it's on a totally different level, like completely different, like being a local artist and then being able to like tour the world are completely different things and different perspectives, and a lot of pressure in one and not so much on the other. One's on yourself, one's on your other, as you become a businessman and you have to take care of people and pay for everything and make sure everyone's good, and um, a lot of learning along the way.
Yeah. There's no manual. Like they just kind of throw you into it and you're like, this is what you got
No,
to do.
no, and I didn't really have a mentor, and I wish I did. That's like, it's like especially during that idle time, I had a couple people that gave me some good advice. Some I took, some I wish I took, you know. But yeah, it became a whole different world, what I thought I knew going into it, because I knew about TV production. I knew how they could like make you say whatever they want you to say via editing.
Mhm.
But the attraction for American Idol was that it was legit live. And
Mm.
I could say, man, I'll thank God. I want to thank God tonight. I want to thank God tonight. And that'll get me the Christian vote. I want to, I like you look at it through a different lens. I did, because I'd been behind a camera before. I did like comedy music videos with this comedy troupe called Cupcake, an improv group in Seattle, made like the Harry Potter rap, the Chuck Norris rap, like when all that was before there was like viral.
Yeah.
We were viral on YouTube before YouTube was popular. And I was just like the tag along buddy. I was doing it for fun. I was like helping produce some music a little bit and just be a creative part of it, because I had some geniusly hilarious friends, and
Mhm.
when I got to American Idol, I was just like, okay, smile, bite your tongue, because I'm pretty blunt and honest and truthful.
Mhm.
So when someone would ask me a question, I'll give them the truth, and they don't want to hear the truth. They want the sound bite that's just gonna like, and especially with American Idol, people don't realize it was kind of a boot camp, a prison, and the best stage you could ever be on.
Mhm.
Like they held us hostage. Basically, they wouldn't let us talk to anyone. They took away all the social media. We couldn't control it. We weren't supposed to leave at night. They put us up in an apartment with a security guard that wouldn't let us leave.
Oh my God.
Um, and I'm 25 at the time. Like what the fuck is this? Like,
Yeah. Like, what are you
I'm
doing?
not, I'm not grounded. I'm not freaking 12, and I didn't swear in front of my teacher. You know what I mean? Like what is this? So
Yeah.
it was a lot of weird stuff. The conditions, and like you couldn't drive, you couldn't do this, and I was like calling the lawyers. I'm like, did I sign up for that? Like, does that actually say in the contract of American Idol? No, it doesn't. So go fuck yourselves. You know what I mean? The producers hated me. But at the same time, they would apologize to me, because I had to fight fight tooth and nail to get the songs that I wanted on that show. And, here they are. They're the biggest producers in the world. And they were telling me and trying to manipulate. They try and manipulate, especially the younger kids. They try and manipulate them to do what they want them to do. Like you're going to sing this song.
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, I thought this was competition and we got to pick what we do. You know what I mean? Like, so there was a bunch of us on the show. It wasn't just me like giving them hell as much as we could, because, they kind of had you. It's like, do you want this opportunity or not? Like, are you grateful or not? We picked you for a reason. I was like, well, you picked me for a reason. It's because but so my strategy was to bite my tongue. And I said, thank you, and nodded my head. And I never talked back to the judges. It was literally my only strategy, and was to make good arrangements. You know what I mean? They would, they would have arrangers and vocal coaches. Deborah Bird, who I loved immensely, just passed away recently.
Mm-hmm.
She was amazing. Amazing vocalist and teacher, and I learned a lot from her. Mm-hmm. But I would arrange my own music on my computer and throw the songs in. And I looked at American Idol as a remix show, and luckily it worked out for me, because America didn't know what they were going to get every week. They knew they would get a song, but they didn't know what it was going to sound like. Yeah. And I'm glad that I was 100% authentic me, except for biting my tongue. You know what I mean? That's like the 1% where I was just like, there's so many times I wanted to say what I wanted to say, like right after the judges, or like Ryan's secrets. All of a sudden it's just like, Ryan's like right here. And you're like, oh yeah, cool. Well, Blake, nah, call now. You know what I mean? And you're like, dude, get away from me. Because it's just like you're pouring your heart out. You're nervous as heck. I don't get nervous, but on that show, like I was like, every week I was just like, I would do this like routine where I would just like run to the bathroom, like right before I would like get on stage, and they'd be like, where the hell's Blake? Where is he? He's got to go. Just like get a like, good scream out, or like have to pee all of a sudden, and then just like be away from, because they would like put us in this room where we all had to watch each other's performance. And I was like, this is so just like, so weird. Yeah. But that was, like I said, it's can of worms with that show. But every week was like a blessing, so it's weird. Every single person on that show, even if they won, even Kelly Clarkson, Carrie Underwood, all these people that got number one, still have a bittersweet experience with that show, because it was so controlling and so but it's made careers out of some amazing, talented humans. And I'm fortunate enough that I'm synonymous with a show that's been like one of the top most popular shows of all time in the zeitgeist of television as we know it.
Yeah. It's wild just to see people in their regular everyday lives. They go on a show like this, right? And then they're able to get this worldwide recognition by YouTube and TV streams, and then you have interviews and tours and stuff. Like, it's got to be so wild to go from just your regular everyday life to just that, and then you know what I mean? Like, it's got to be so wild.
Yeah, it's wild doing it and then going back to the everyday life. It's like we got to do the tour, which was amazing. We're playing like stadiums, and then blah 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 blah, and I get signed, and I get to do some pretty amazing stuff. I'm very fortunate, but it's like, and then I moved home, and then I became a recluse and didn't want to see anybody ever again. And like was a hermit and got super depressed, and, all these things happen, and got dropped from my label, even though I made them like $3 million, because the record industry changed, and someone, Clive Davis got fired. And it was just like all this like crazy, crazy awesome to like instantly, like no one wanted to touch me. Yeah. So it's crazy. Like the show was great, but the aftermath was like so weird. It was just like no one is straight with you. Even friends back home that I love didn't know how to talk to me. It's so weird what fame does to people, the people that are famous and the people around them that, it's a weird thing. You know what I mean? We're all just human.
Yeah.
And I want to be remembered for the impact that I make, with some of my music, that, that if it helps if it helps people, that's all I care about, you know. But for me, I have to do it because I love it.
Yeah.
And like I'll go crazy if I don't, you know what I mean? So it's not that big of a deal. You know, the fame, that was like, it didn't mean anything to me. And I hated it. I hated it. I like stayed indoors for like 2 years unless I was playing a show,
Wow.
you know.
Because all you want to do is make your music, and then the whole fame thing, and people act weird towards you, and then you don't know if someone's genuine or not. Like, it's got to be like so crazy.
It's weird because I say this to a lot of people that I'm like 50% a performer and 50% like an artist producer. Like I love just being here, making my music, but I love to produce other people and take their vision to the level that they needed to get to. And that's super rewarding. Or teaching a kid. I taught kids during COVID songwriting and production. But then there's the other part of me that just definitely has mic envy. Like I'm just like, I go to a show and I see someone, I'm like, I want to be on the mic. Like, where's the mic? You know what I mean? And I've had that. And I love that because it still like inspires me to like entertain people and have fun. It's just, it still hasn't lost its luster as being fun to me, you know?
Yeah.
And I hope it never does.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that you are still able to find joy in your craft, because sometimes people say like, "Oh, I don't like know if I can do it anymore." But for you to just be like, "This is fun for me. This is my way to create and express myself." I mean, that's just so powerful.
For me, it was, I always wanted to be a producer because I loved electronic music so much, and so many electronic musicians and artists and singers, and you know, since Michael Jackson to Bjork to BT for electronic music to, you know, The Prodigy and like all these producers. And I'd never had that confidence, even though I was doing my own arrangements and kind of producing them on American Idol. And then I was, you know, people tell you like, oh, you shouldn't be doing that. You should just be doing this, and managers and record labels and them not taking you seriously. It like really like stunts your growth as a human, as an artist, and you know, years of therapy later, here I am, and I'm okay.
Yeah.
Yay.
I'm glad you're okay, because I feel as a creative, you're right. So many people want to put you in this little box, and they're like, but you need to do your hair this way. You need to dress this way. I want you to sound like this when you sing. You can only be in this specific lane. And you're like, no, I listen to everything. I appreciate everything. I got to do what works for me.
Yeah, it's tough when the record label owns you, and you're kind of a slave to the record needle, as they say, slave to the needle. Unless you're a tattoo artist, then they say it for them too. But yeah, it can be so frustrating when you're a creative, and then there's another team of creatives that are like, we're going to do this and this, and when it's not presented as a collaboration, it can go very sour very quickly. And I love to collaborate. That's like my favorite thing to do. Songwriting, production, it doesn't really matter, like on stage, off stage. But with record labels, my first experience was like, we're going to pair you. They did give me a little leeway because they knew I was a songwriter. They knew I could produce. And you know, they made it seem that I would be like getting all this like, you know, control, when it was just like magic, fake out, you know what I mean? But luckily I found Ryan Tedder through Pete Gambar and A&R at RCA Arista, and I found like a brother, you know what I mean? And you know, this was the same time where no one knew One Republic. We were on the same, our albums came out 1 week apart. We toured together. I wrote like 9 songs with him. He would have a full song done, but then he'd be like, go in the other room and write the second verse. Like don't even read what I wrote. You know what I mean? He was confident in my creation and songwriting skills that allowed me to do that, because he's brilliant. That dude's crazy. He's phenomenal. So I was fortunate enough that I had a producer that really gave me some freedom and some leeway on my own project. And then we wrote a few from scratch. A lot came from beats that he had made or songs that we liked the same things. And then I met Sam and Sluggo, and Sam just became like a total mensch, and all that stuff is super organic. And I've written 6 or 7 songs with him now. My Heartbreak on Vinyl, which went to #1, which we wrote in like 40 minutes in New York when Tower Records was closing down. I walked by and I came to the studio and I was like, I know what I want to write about. I already have the lyrics in my head, you know? And Sam and I wrote that song, and it was just like, well, that was like the easiest session we've ever had. That was amazing. So, those are the relationships forged in making an album in the pop world, in the major label world, that are just so meaningful. The creatives are where it's at. I could, you got to have the bureaucrats too, but man, there's not a lot of integrity going on in that. There's a lot of sharks in the water.
Definitely. So you said you love collaboration. Talk to me about what it takes to have a good collaboration.
I mean, chemistry is like the cliche word, but right away, like I would go into some blind sessions where I call them blind dates. I'd have these blind dates where you're like meeting someone the record label set you up with, oh, you're going to meet Marjorie. She's such a sweet girl. You're going to write the best song. And it would just be it would be so bad. It would be like no vibes with this person, so a good collaboration is like, yeah, you're talking for hours and then something in the conversation comes up like, oh, that's a great idea for a song. And then you've already been talking for hours. You kind of know the person. For me, I kind of tend to write with people that are more conceptual than I am. Like I'm pretty conceptual and can visualize the song in my mind pretty good. And I've had Sam's been such a great teacher of like how he writes and how he gets a lot of cool ideas out quickly. In him, it's always been like just, back and forth really easy. And he's introduced me to some amazing collaborators, but just kind of having that vibe, like if the vibe's right, it right away. If it's wrong right away, then that's even better. Then you can shut down and be like, hey, I'm not feeling it. I think we should call it. You know what I mean? It was great to meet you. You know what I mean? It's the same thing in life and dating. That's why I call it a blind date. Cause like, if you know what you want, it should be easy. If you know what you don't want, it should be easy. So, I think that's the wisdom I have now, which I did not have back then, and I was it was all excitement. It was just like, dude, I'm signed. Like Clive Davis signed me. Oh my God. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And then it was just like, oh, they're totally fucking me over. You know what I mean? Afterwards. So, but, you don't know at a young age, but I'm not a young man anymore.
Well, I think, like you said, when you're young, you're excited and you're like, oh, this is so fun. This is so fun. But then when you go through these ups and downs, right? So when you're in the studio or you're wherever trying to collab with someone and it's just not working out, are you the first to be like, hey, this is just we're not gelling. Can we let's just leave. Let's just call it what it is. Do you say that?
I mean, yes and no. I've been in sessions. I'm definitely not the alpha. And when you're the artist, like if I'm definitely more if I'm the producer and it's like my beat or it's my melody that people are working on, because melodies are precious to me. I like to work with more lyricists because I'm a second guesser when it comes to my own lyrics. So it all depends. I was in a session and recently, and I was just like, you can tell people's position of how like into themselves they are or what they do or how they write a song. And I just like kind of sit back and like vibe out and see who's who and like what, like get to know them. That's like, you're kind of weeding it out. Like, oh, I trust this guy. This is my friend, but he brought this other person in, and that person is just like gung ho about, da 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 da. It's just like, it's different every time, honestly, but that's why I choose to write with people I've already worked with, people that know me like best friends of mine now that I write with, because they know my heart, they know my mind, they know what it is exactly I'm trying to say, because I've conveyed it to them in confidence multiple times. If I'm going through a relationship, if I'm having trouble with my dog's just staring at me, and I had a scare with my dog. I thought he was going to die last month. And, all these things, like I can write about these things. So
yeah. Your dog's right there.
Yeah, here. You want to go outside? Yeah, he's like, yeah, you got to say hello to the people first.
Oh, hi, sweetie. Oh,
hello, everybody.
What's your dog's name?
His name is Sir Didymus.
Oh, hello, young man.
Yo, what's up?
Oh, hello, young man. I've actually had this recently happen a lot of people,
I gotta let him
their dog is right next to them, and they always bring the dog in the show. So I am all about when a dog makes an appearance. I love it.
He's taking a moment to step outside. All right. Yep. He's like barking at me, just staring. You gonna let me out or what, dude?
So I want to talk about working with your project, The Private Language. So we were just talking about collaboration. I know you've done a lot of stuff on your own, but talk to me about this unique between the two of you guys.
Oh man. Okay. So The Private Language is me and KJ Saka, Kevin, and we've been playing music together on stage for 20 years. Mm-hmm. And he's playing the drums on Break Another on my first album. We've produced songs together, or he's mixed some of my songs. They're on my albums. Actually, my whole last album we mixed together. That was mixed by him. And he finally moved to LA when I was in LA, and I was like, well, we should start something. Let's do something in the studio. We've never done it. You have time off right now. You're not touring. He's in a band called Pendulum. Mm-hmm. And they were on hiatus. So I was like, let's go, dude. It's 2019. Let's go. It's like 5 years now. It's crazy. And then, so yeah, we started with, I at the time when I was making Wanderlust Unknown, I was making this other album because I wanted to make something with a pseudonym that Blake Lewis wasn't involved with, just something that like a mixtape. I kind of wanted to put out a mixtape and make something fun that was completely different, that didn't sound like me. And so I had all these, like, I was in this, like, people have always wanted to put me in a box, like record labels and all that stuff. And I've never done it. I'm kind of, all my albums are kind of mixtapes to me. So this time I was like, you know what? Wanderlust Unknown is going to be like no synths. It's going to be like upright bass and like gypsy guitar and like very jazzy. I kind of wanted to make like a Tribe Called Quest album that didn't sound sample based, but did. And then at the other time, I'm like a total synth 80s, new wave, dark wave, post-punk era vibe guy. Like I need my synths and my electronic music. So during that time, I was making these things, but I was also learning the bass guitar, which I'd never owned one. So I bought one and I was just kind of like salaba the bass, all the time. And that kind of became the start of The Private Language. We made one beat together, and then I had all this stuff, and he's like, why don't we just use this stuff? It's vibey. And he's the kind of guy that makes a beat every day, and he works pretty quick. And when we're together, I'm just like, such like a melody, like very honing in, like singularly focused on things. And we work really well together. And he loves it when I boss him around. We've always worked together. And we are very close to finishing the album finally. Because it went on hiatus basically all of COVID. Yeah. I moved back to Washington. And then right after COVID, he's been on tour with Pendulum. So we're really only getting together 1 day a week. He moved to Vegas because I said I was moving to Vegas. He actually got here during COVID before me. He and his wife. And so we're excited. We've actually been talking with a record label. We're signed to Black Hole Recordings in Amsterdam, which is like a big kind of trance label. And our stuff is like almost lo-fi, electronic funk mixed with a little bit of my 80s influence, and it's all over the place. Like
Yeah.
we have like drum and bass, liquid drum and bass, like almost Parliament funk is kind of in Paradise, our last single we put out. My voice is format shifted, so I wanted to become a character. I was really like in love with Empire of the Sun, and that kind of aesthetic, mixed with like at the beginning we have masks at the beginning. I didn't want us to be involved because I wanted there to be mystery, but at the same time, there's no mystery left in this world because we have the internet, and you can literally, like, if you mention it one time, it's there for good. You know what I mean? It's like nothing's wiped away from history anymore. It's like, so I was like, well, that concept doesn't work. It's shit. Especially because my format shifted. My fans are like, this isn't Blake. This sounds like a different human. It's supposed to sound like a different human.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard for me to even advertise or like try and sell people on. I'm like, do you like the song? Then cool. Like, yeah, it's me. But what format shifting is, for those that don't know, is like if I sing, hey, it sounds like, huh.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same note, but it just changes the character. And we don't even change it that much. It's like -2. It's like nothing, but it doesn't sound like me. In other songs,
sound like you, but it's fun though. Like because it is you, but it doesn't sound like you.
Yeah, people are like, oh, I totally know it's you because it's your style writing and your kind of melodies. I'm like, yeah, okay, you get it because you're like, know me. But people are like, I didn't know this guy sound like that. But also new fans of a band, of a project, they're not going to be a fan of Blake Lewis. They're going to be a fan of the private language. You know what I mean? So there's that too. It works both ways, you know? So to me, I love it. I think it sounds good. In the future, there might be a song where it might be unformat shifted, you know, the backgrounds on a lot of them aren't, but it allows me to be like almost two different people, you know, which is great. So, and that's the fun. And it's, I loved it before it got popular, and here it is. And we're like late to the game because we haven't released the album yet. So, but yeah, it's in everything now. Like all the vocal choppy, like sample, you know, that kind of stuff it's been around forever. All this kind of format shifting, like high pitched vocals, like the Chipmunks, to, you know, where we are now, where like a lot of urban music with auto tune and format shifting is going on. So
definitely. So you talked about it briefly, but I want to circle back on the single In Paradise. Talk to me about the story behind it and what the song means to you.
Well, this whole concept of this album is so I made the beats right before I went on tour and the pandemic hit. And then I started writing lyrics during the COVID blip. And you know, it was just escapism. Honestly, it was just like, oh my God, I'm like staying at my best friend's house. I don't have my studio with me. I just have some pieces of gear. He just went through like a liver transplant, and I was like taking care of him. I thought COVID. I was one of those people that was like, this isn't gonna last a while. This is gonna be like a 3-week thing. To my surprise and everyone else's, like 3 months into it, I started getting super depressed, and I just started writing like, oh my God, I'm just like dreaming of a tropic place, like that. And then actually that song particularly, a lot of the songs are like that, but for that one was actually written before COVID with my friend Brandon Rogers, who was on my season of American Idol with me. Who's one of my besties, amazing songwriter. He wrote a Troye Sivan hit. He's doing a lot of stuff with Disney right now. He's an incredible human and a prolific songwriter. And we wrote Pot of Gold together. We wrote Trouble together. We had been friends for like 12 years and we had not written a song together. And I was like, why don't we write a song? Like, he's like, it's never going to happen unless you put it on my my schedule. So we finally did that. And In Paradise is the second song we wrote. Might be third. Pot of Gold was the first one. Anyway, yeah, it kind of just, it was one of those sessions, you get these occasionally. I actually had another one with him. I wrote one of my favorite songs I've ever written with him like a month ago. That will be on one of my EPs. But this one happened like that in Paradise. I mean, I know a place we can go. We can go to. You'll never find, but I'll show you. We'll spin and swirl till the world says away. Say yes to leave all your stresses one by one in paradise. I was literally just like dreaming of Fiji, dreaming of Bali, dreaming like, I do a lot of cruises. I performed on cruises and just going to all these tropical places like every year. It's just like, as soon as you leave, you're like, why do I have to leave? Like, why do I got to go back? Especially because I get prolific on those. I work all day, every day, but it's, with a mezcal in my hand at the pool, making beats. I still work at pools. I'm like, this is the best, take a swim, come back up, make some more beats.
But that's the thing. You have to enjoy the pool, enjoy the sunshine, but then you're like, now I'm back into it. Now it's just like,
the world's a better place with laptops, I swear. And the fact that you can make music mobilely.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on AI in music?
I mean, far as the writing, it's never going to be good.
Yeah.
Like as a tool, it can help a little bit until like it's just not as smart as the human brain. You know what I mean? It might be able to compute faster, but it's just like not as creative. For visual stuff, I think it's pretty cool. I like the way you could morph some things with it. It's fun for a second, but it seems very gimmicky at the time presently because it's so new. Granted, that could change in a day to 6 months to a year to 5 years, but it's never going to take over a human, honestly, until like the dumbasses who combine it with robots and robot technology, because robot technology is kind of terrible right now. So it's like we have a ways to go before, Judgment Day, Terminator, the remake of Arnold, or like, in the future, they actually remake that movie and it's like, Terminator 25 and it's actually looks exactly like Arnold and it is a T2, I mean, or whatever model number he is, you know what I mean? So, I don't know. I'm not worried about it. I mean, I think it's so funny because they call artificial intelligence and it's not intelligence because it's not really creating. It's more machine learning. But the term AI got, it's more in the zeitgeist and people are blasting it, but it's just machine learning basically. So yeah, I don't really have a stance on it. I watched this podcast with Will Sasso called Dudesy, and it's controlled by AI, and he's giving all of his information, his back information, his emails, his correspondence with everyone he's ever had, all the movies he's done, all the things like that. And it comes up with these crazy scenarios and stuff. So I like the way they're using that as to see where AI can go. It's like how is this implemented? How can it work? Like they made Dudesy to write an hour stand-up, because he's a comedian, and it was just so bad. It was terrible. It was just like, you know what I mean? It's like the worst jokes I ever heard, but they were jokes nonetheless. But I don't know. I'm curious because I'm a curious dude, and I love technology and I love sci-fi. You know what I mean? Do I want that to happen to us on our planet? And I'm like, is it going to be Dune in the future? We're gonna, like, who knows? I might be dead. I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, I got one life to live. I don't have time to waste on the, what do you say? Hypotheses on it. You know what I mean? So I don't know. What about you? What do you think? You think it's gonna take over the world? Yeah.
Well, I can okay, I don't think you should solely use it, but I think it could be helpful. So for instance, if you were writing a song and you were just like,
Mhm.
here are some of the song lyrics I have, such and such. It could be a tool to
It's a
help.
tool. I've tried that like a couple times on GPT, and it like would give me paragraphs, like 4 pages and something,
I
and
know.
I would use one word. I was like, "Oh, I like that word. It's a
Yeah.
better descriptive word." But it has not written a song for me. You know what I mean? It's like I use Rhyme Zone or whatever, or a thesaurus, online, or dictionary.com, like that, and look up poetry, and like you read all these things, written by all these people. And it's basically a collection of all those things regurgitated in a different order, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
um and not in a great way. I think it's very scary though for movies and television, and I think there needs to be copyright laws, just like a social security number that everyone has in America. There should be a photo social security card.
Mhm.
We gotten to that point where it's like we have video chat in our hand. You know what I mean? It's going to be crazy for fraudulent cases and the courts, and they really need to make Supreme Court federal laws to make sure that they can't copy this unless I give them permission. And why would you? Unless you're going to get a million gazillion dollars. Like, you are you, you're uniquely you.
Mhm.
So I think it's going to be terrible for the movie industry and for all of us eventually. So I do think it's bad in that sense. But I think for writing, I mean, as a creative tool, that's cool.
Yeah.
If it helps you, write a line, that's cool, but it's not going to write the next movie script
Exactly.
good. It's not going to change the game that way because it's just not that creative. But when it comes to visuals, things can get doctored up so easily with CGI now. Like, to have a computer do that in an instant and you not own the copyright of it, it's really bad. And there should be rules of what is implemented far as what is being fed into the machine,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
so controversial.
So you produced 3 songs for a new movie on Netflix. Can you tell us about it?
I can. I'm so excited. It got to Netflix. It's called Your Lucky Day. It's Angus Cloud's one of his last movie, could be his last movie.
Mhm.
R.I.P. But Dan Brown directed it and wrote the movie. My friend Nick Bazzillo, who edited and directed my music video called Retro Romance, uh, edited that movie. Um, edited it. And they hired me to do the opening song and some songs, like some Christmas songs in the scene, in a kitchen scene that's in that movie. And
Mhm.
I was very honored and very excited, and I poured my heart out into it. And it's on Netflix. It's in the top 10 right now. I think it's number 6 on Netflix currently. So it's a thriller. It's actually really good. I was like so surprised because I'm such a consumer of entertainment and I love thrillers. And there's just a lot of twists in it, and I don't want to spoil it at all. But the cast is fantastic, and it's a simple story that kind of goes haywire, and it's really well done. I love it.
Awesome.
And it could be for those of the faint of heart, maybe not if you can't handle a little violence or blood, because there's definitely some in there. But yeah, it's a great movie. Check it
So
out. Your Lucky Day on Netflix now.
your lucky day, guys, go stream it on Netflix. So Blake, what else do you have coming up in the next couple months?
Let's see. Next week, I'm heading to Atlanta for a corporate gig for like 4 days. I've also been producing music for my friend Ginger Gonzaga, who was in She-Hulk and various other shows you've seen her in on HBO. We just produced music for her short film, which has been a labor of love over the last year. So we might work on another song while I'm out there. I have a residency in Vegas at Aria at a place called Easy's Saturday nights. So May, I'll be doing that. And then I got various gigs here, there, and everywhere. I started working with a charity called Rachel's Challenge, where I'll be presenting almost like a TED Talk to like schools around the nation starting in August. The beginning of the year started slow. January and February was like, what is going on? And now I'm full throttle. So that and 2 EPs. I've been working on my solo records.
Yay.
And one is like, I got 7 songs in the can, and then the other I have 2 out of like 6 or 8. Who knows where. But I have all of the songs and concepts and what I want to write about on the brain and in all my voice memos and notes. So I just got strings done for one of them by my friend Andrew Joslin in Seattle, and they sound so good. Very excited to get this song mixed and mastered.
Uh-huh. And the Private Language new album.
Yes, indeed. We're thinking October, but we just had an email with a label, and so we're trying to figure out our next single, which is going to be called Vacation Hideaway. And it's kind of like I don't know, it reminds me of like Tropical Sade or something. It's like, I don't know. I that's what the thing with this project is cool. It's like it's really like how like crazy we can get with some production and vibiness, and like I was sticking to like guitar and electric bass as foundational instruments for the instrumentation, but then we have like very synth based drum and bass, like liquid kind of vibes. So we're almost done.
Yay.
I'm
Well,
very excited.
I feel like 2024 is going to be like your year. Lots of good music, the residency at ARIA. For all the beautiful people watching right now that want to support you, how can they support you, Blake?
I mean, say hi on the socials. I'm going to start doing like live chats and just play maybe a song or 2 a week. I'm going to start doing an Indiegogo campaign for my EPs, which I would love everyone to be a part of. I do that with every album. It's my fans that really want to support do that. It's like packages and like merch and whatnot, and they become executive producers of my album per se. Fan driven albums all the way. I wouldn't be here without them, so I thank them very much. And that allows me to communicate to them on more of a personal level, which I'm going to start doing more on like TikTok. I've never been like a social media, like I'll browse occasionally and whatnot, but I don't do a lot of postings. I do on my stories for Instagram and Facebook. But I'm going to start doing like live weekly chats, I think, on TikTok for fun, just to like connect more, honestly, because I've been missing that. I'm in Vegas, and I'm still not used to living in this climate yet. And I want to reach out.
And I think community is so important, right? Because when we have people that we look up to, it's so awesome when we're able to have that human connection. Like, we love your music, but like, what else is going on? Like, and just to humanize the whole experience and make you closer to our fans. And so, it's just that, it's fun.
And just vibe like this,
Vibe. And that's why it's called Vibing with Ashley Live, because it's all about good vibes here. Right?
Yeah, right.
Blake, this was so much fun. Thank you so much for coming back.
Thanks for having me.
Back. I know you have tons of new music coming out. Please come back when you want to push something, and we'll have a lovely chat about the music.
I would love to. Thank you so much.
Blake, you're so amazing. Thank you so much for coming back on the show.
You are.
Have a wonderful evening, guys. If you don't already, please make sure to follow Blake. Go see him if you're in Vegas at the ARIA, and he has tons of new music coming out for this year. Blake, always a pleasure. I appreciate you so much. I love your artistry, and just you are such a joy to talk to.
I appreciate it. It's so good to see you.
Yes.
Have fun in New York. I got to get out there and play a show. So
you got it. You got it. New York. You are long due.
I'm long due. I miss my sis, and I miss my Broadway and my Shoshana Bean and all my friends on Broadway. And I haven't not been to a show in a few years, so I got to get out to New York, New York. You know,
Blake, you're due. You're due. Just come on over. Come on over. We will welcome you with open arms.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for spending your evening with us, Blake. And guys, if you don't already, please make sure to follow me. I'm Ashley Live. This is Vibin with Ashley Live. Hit the like button, subscribe, and I have all these other episodes. Blake is 219. Blake was on episode, I believe you were on episode 41, which is a couple years ago. Ooh. So long time ago.
Long time ago.
Long time ago. I feel like it was like a different universe we were in. But Blake, so very grateful for your support and so excited to see what the future holds for you.
Hey, I feel the same. So thank you so much for having me, and I'll see you in New York.
Of course. Come back on anytime. I'd love to chat with you, Blake.
Alrighty. Cheers.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.